Hello and welcome. In this presentation, we're going to look at how to start designing your own interface. Okay, the pre-installed ones are nice, but there's probably certain features you actually want on your interface. So let's take a look at that. We'll disconnect here and let's do a file, new interface. Delete everything, yes please. Okay, so we have a blank screen here. The first thing to do is to start placing some controls. So let's go ahead and we can go through, go into the window, controls palette, F2, or just hit F2 to open that up. And we can start placing things. Okay, well, definitely, probably want a plot on there and a serial control so we can access data from the controller. Now, MakerPlot by itself, there's a lot we can do without serial data. If you just want a general purpose interface for some use, you can build one without ever having to access a controller. So it makes a nice little GUI for developing interfaces pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and let's put serial control on here to begin with. That asks for a name of it, and we'll just leave it as serial. And a plot can have, one interface can have multiple serial ports if we're bringing data in from from various sources. You just have to access the data directly from the port versus using A and 0 and whatnot. Let's go ahead and put one on there. So we'll just click that, draw it down here, and we've got a serial port. Okay. And it comes up, it opens up its configuration window. It's an interface editing window, so we can go down through and change things about it, such as the data bits or stop bits and ETR enabled and things like that. F2, let's bring up, and let's put a plot on here. Okay, we'll just leave it plot. Plot title. Called demo. And we'll draw that on here. So we get ZeroPlot going. And it brings up its configuration window for this. Now at this point, I can go over, when I'm in edit mode, I go over control, hit F3, and open up the configuration for that specific control. And right now, I mean, we're ready to plot. So hit F9 to exit the edit mode. Oops. F9 to exit edit mode. We're on right COM port 9600. Let's go connect. We've got our serial data coming in, and we begin plotting it. And we're good to go. Okay, so we're bringing that data, we're plotting. Nothing to it. Okay, let's put some meters on here. So we got a lot of different things. We can start putting buttons in here and all types of good stuff. We have the image buttons so that we can have some more interesting looking buttons and virtual controls such as toggle switches and such. Icon buttons, if you like icons, you can use a lot of different icon buttons for various purposes. There's your own buttons or image type icons. Want to indicate a fan's running or valves open or something, or pumps on or lights on. Use those. Indicators. Okay, so we have our bar graphs and segment, LEDs we can indicate with, thermometer we can have it indicate temperature, ovals that will change its pattern based upon the incoming data, and of course our various meters. Let's go ahead and put a meter up here when we haven't played with. I like a circular. We'll put a meter up here. We'll call it meter. I'll call it meter 0. In case I do a second one. Text for loop control, what do I want to name it? Okay, once we have that, then we draw it on the screen. Okay, and it brings up its box for it. And once it's on the screen, then we can take that, we can reposition it, adjust its size. So it's pretty easy to reposition things in MakerPlot-J. Okay, now that we have the meter on there, set the serial data source. By default, it comes up as AN0, so analog input channel 0. If I want channel 1 instead, I can put AN1 in. Again, if I want some math in there, do some scaling of the data, I can put the braces in there and multiply there, divide that by some value to scale that data on the meter face. So we'll just leave it 0. Come on, editing mode, F9. So I hit that twice for some reason. And connect. Okay. And we're metering our data. Okay. Now its scales aren't proper for what we've got here, but we can easily set the min and max on that. Set the minimum to -200. Set the maximum to 200. Okay, and maybe reset those alarm min to -100. Get that? Set alarm minimum. Yeah, I did -100. And the maximum to 100. Well, set the maximum to 200. There we go. Okay. And again, we can start monitoring that. If I double click it, I can turn the alarm on for it. Almost made it. Okay, so we can start monitoring various things. I'm going to disconnect for now. But we can, in real time, be able to adjust our interface and update things while we're still connected. And we don't need to stop connecting just to update our various aspects of our interface. Let's go and put a button on here once just to demonstrate that. So let's go back into our palette. Let's find a good button for this. I'm thinking about doing a reset button here. We can use our icons or standard buttons. Let's use an icon. And we'll just, let's do, these are toggle buttons, these are momentary buttons. So let's just do a simple button here. And it comes up with a prefix. When you name your controls, try to give it a prefix. So when you're thinking about the controller, you see in the list, you know what type of control it is. So this is a IBTN or image button. And names are one word, no special characters. And we'll call it image button reset. Okay, title for it, reset. Draw it on there. Okay, so we have our reset button. So let's write some code for it. F3, let's go into it. Okay, let's back up to this meter once. When I hit F3 here, what I see for its update value is AN0. Now we set that through the menu features, but that is its update value. Whenever new data comes in, or many times per second, it runs through all these update values for all the controls and updates all the controls to that update value. So in that case, it's going to be AN0. And it has no event code. I could write some event code for that meter when it reaches a high level. We'll try that in a moment. Let's go back to our reset button here once. Okay, and let's write some event code for this one. Now, top of my head, I know what it's going to be. Let's go ahead and open up the editor for this. So we're going to open up the editor, get some contextual help, exclamation. We can pick out, again, what control do we want? Plot control, dot, okay, general instructions for it, drawing instructions for it, values from it, if we're calling up values, properties. So what I'm looking for here is just to reset it. A big list here. But we can just type in RESE and have it reduce the list down to only things with those little characters in it. So there's reset at the very top, of course. Reset. Okay, and that's it. Okay, I'm going to click that button, do a plot reset. Update my code. Okay, we're good. Toggle off of it. Let's go into F9. Okay, let's reconnect here and start plotting. And let's reset it. There it goes. Okay, so we wrote our first event code for something to take place when that button is clicked. Okay, let's go ahead and put one more button on here to set the scales to the plot here. We saw another one. Let's go ahead and do F2, find another button. I button called set scale, I button set scale. Okay, text, set scale. Draw it on our plot. Try to line up the same size as the previous one. Set scale. And again, we can adjust the size of that if we need to. Wasn't big enough to fit the text in there or something. F2, and let's look at some event codes. So again, we'll open up the editor, make things easier on us. So what I want to do is set meters scales to the plot scales. Okay, and this is a good application of using various controls. So exclamation for instruction. Okay, what control do we want to operate on with object? Meter 0, dot. Okay, we're going to set the min. Let's find a min here. Min. Okay, so the min's at the top of my list there. Min is equal to, okay, get the value of, okay, it's going to be from the plot control. Okay, so I've got plot highlighted there. That's good. Dot. The Y max. Okay, there's Y max there. Oh, we're doing min, so Y min. Close it down. Okay, so we've read that. Okay, let's do meter 0 dot max is equal to the plot dot Y max. Okay, update our code. Okay, hit F9 to exit edit mode. Twice again. Okay, so let's try it once. Set scale. And minus 146 to 146 per the scale here. So we're able to read those. Let's look at some other things about this button here. F3, we can go into here. We can set a hotkey for it if we like, such as we'll do a capital S for its hotkey. And we can see it being underlined. So when I press Control S, oops, I save. Try that again. Alt S, they're all hotkeys are alts. So Alt S will activate that button then for us. Let's get some other things about it. Okay, we can set the sound for it. What sound do we want to make? Now let's go with a different sound here. So we'll go into sounds, do add Mac. Try it out once. Cool. Okay. Oops, wrong thing. F3. Set a different icon. If we wanted to have a different icon, now we can create our own graphics and assign our own graphics as well. So in our media file, we'll go into buttons, 2D, and maybe we want that to have a slightly different color to it instead. Okay, but we'd also have to change the hover color and the set color for it, pressed color for it. Keep doing that. Okay. And I do see right now with MakerPlot, you want everything to be forward slashes. I was allowing both ways for a while, but right now it's just forward slashes for it. So we'll take both ways, but preferred is forward slash. Icon with percent. If I don't want that to fill up the entire area, I can set the percentage of how big that fills up the area. Use icon aspect. Enables using original images aspect for sizing. If we want nice and live sized of the image, and just a lot of things we can set about it. Do we want a show border around that or not? Border color if we're using it. And we can set the font on that if we want to. Show card Gothic. Okay, so there's a lot of configurations we can make for our buttons. Again, writing code, simple code's pretty easy. Let's look at one other type of button here and see how we can do that. So let's go into our palette. Let's find an image button. I want a toggle button in this case. And we'll call this plot on. Okay, so we want a button to control the plot. Okay, to turn it on or off. Plot on for its text. Let's draw it on there. Okay, what I want to do for its update value is to use from the plot whether it's actually on or off. So I'm going to double click here so I can get my editor going. And for its value, I want to read the plot and read the plot on value. Is that plot on or off? Update it from that. Update code. Okay. So now let's go hit F9, exit edit mode. Okay, right now it's green because the plot's on. If I turn off plotting, that turns red. So it's reading that control property and updating that control automatically for me. And now let's write some code so that it will do something, because right now it doesn't do anything for us. We haven't written any event code for it. So let's do F3. Let's write some code for it. Now, a lot of controls have certain events they respond to, such as for this button, if I open up do a less than sign, it shows me all the events I can write code for, so that when that event happens, it will perform that operation. So when that button turns on, what do I want to do? There is a way of just setting it equal to the current value. For example, let's try this once. I'll try to go ahead and do it. I'm going to say plot on. Oops. Plot on is equal to the value. Two brackets mean, one bracket means to read the name of the control. Two brackets means to read the control's value, is equal to, let's see, label button plot on. Okay. And let's go ahead and try that out. We'll update the code. Okay. And let's start plotting. Okay, I'll try turning plotting on. And it doesn't seem to be taking it. I'll try turning it off once. Doesn't seem to be taking it very well. And what happens there is in the while it's processing instructions, my plot on was later than the update value. So it did the update and changed the value before that plot instruction was ever processed in the processing queue. So I need to handle that a little bit differently. And we'll just hit F4, make sure we weren't throwing any error processing string there. F3. Oh, I gave it its name. I did that wrong. I did two things. If I just said plot on, I would have been fine. I got ahead of myself there. Let's try this one more time. There, caught that time. But sometimes I'll catch it and sometimes it won't. Let's go back into editing this once. What I was trying to demonstrate was doing, if I use this. This refers to the control that control is running. So the event code is within the plot on button. So this refers to the plot on. If I do plot this by itself, it returns to me the name of the control. Okay, so once I get the name of the control, then I can get the value of that control, whether it's on or off. Okay, and so by updating the code now, it's using this. Try this again, turn it on. See, sometimes it catches and sometimes it doesn't because of words added in the processing queue. So let's add that one more time. Let's turn plotting off. So what I want to do with these is use the event code. When I turn that on, let's do plot on is equal to 1. Okay, if I turn that button off, then plot on is equal to 0. Okay, and that will assure that it's always a 1 for turning it on and a 0 for turning it off. Update code. Okay, so let's try it now. On, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. Or I could do a pause button here instead and turn pause on or plot pause on or off. Okay, so that's how we can start interfacing with the various properties of controls. Again, overview of that, we want to define what property of what control, what property of it do we want to update that toggle button off of, and then using its on-off events to turn that on or off. Okay, so turn that plot on to 1, or turn that plot on to 0 for an off event. And we can see with the meter similar to it. F3, I've done the code for that. We can do an open there. And we can see it provides low and high events. If that meter is a low set point, do we want some code to run? If it's a high event, we want some code to run as well. Now you'll see a lot of these, or all of them, they have a load event as well. What this means is when this interface loads up, do something, okay, to perform some operation when the interface loads. So let's just go ahead and we'll do meter 0 dot label is equal to voltage instead. Update code. Okay, so it doesn't change it when we click it because that's not the right event for it. I can test it by go into debug. I can test it by doing run load. Okay? And run load will activate all the load events for all the different controls. And that's built directly into an interface file when it's saved. One of the very last instructions is to run load. So it loads up all the controls and runs their load events. I'm going to take this, I'm going to save it just like it is. So disconnect for a minute. Let's do a file, save interface. In my interfaces directory, I'll call it demo. Okay, I'm going to save that interface. Now let's close down MakerPlot to test this out. Okay, again, if you don't have the developer's license, you're not able to do that. Let's reopen MakerPlot. All right, let it load up. Okay, so we can reopen that interface or go to recent and open up interfaces demo. Okay, so we can see it loaded up, and on load, it changed that name of that the label on that meter from power to voltage. So it ran that load code. And there's a lot you can do during load. You can create variables and such. Let's talk about variables for 1 minute here. It's an important aspect. It can be to running interfaces. We'll just do the debug window. So what I want to do is make a var, make variable, and I'll just call it test and set it equal to 20. Okay, so let's just view, and we can see it listed up here now under variables, test. Let's take a look at the value of test. It's equal to 20. Okay, test, okay, that variable again is equal to 40. Show me what test is. Okay, let's try this once. Test plus plus. Instruction field not found. Test plus plus. No, I think I have to be within brackets to do that. So let's do a test plus plus. All right, 41, 42, 43, and it's a postfix test, so it does it after the operation. If I do it before the operation, it'll increment and then show the value. So we can do the plus plus only when it's within brackets. Again, it really doesn't matter. We can do it without any print or anything and just say plus plus and then print test. Okay, and it'll have incremented it, okay, whether it's being seen or not. Okay, so it's post or pre, and we can do minus minus as well for decrementing that variable as well. We also have some index variables, make var indexed. I'm going to call it the help on this. I don't do it very often. Okay, so it's the format of variable name, comma, how many I want. So I'll do demo, comma, 10. All right. So I can see 10 different ones up here. I can set each one individually now. Now, the way that's useful is, let's say I'm using some drop-down box with an index or something to it. I can do show demo sub, let's say there's a list box, list test dot index. So I can call up that index for that list box and then apply that index value 0 to 10, for example, apply it to demo. So it'll be demo 0 or demo 1 or demo 2 or demo 3. Right now, I'll just get an error because it doesn't know what list index is. Okay, but with index controls, list boxes, drop-down boxes, we can call it that index value if we want to, and include and put that as part of the property that we're calling up for a variable or for a controller or what. Okay, so a lot here to get started. Hope it wasn't too overwhelming, but we can start creating our own interface and such. One note, if you do use your own graphics or sounds or things like that, what you want to do is do a file, save as, and put that somewhere you can find it easy on your desktop and create a new folder for it and put all those images in that folder first before you apply them to your controls and whatnot. And then when you build it, it will use a path instruction to access the location of that image file, of that media file. And that's how you make some distributed controls. It's also discussed in the help files. Okay, so that's about it from here for this demonstration. So happy developing. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.